Welcome to Let's Go podcast. This is number 19. I have Kelsey with me. She's going to introduce herself. I'm super excited about talking with her today. So, who are you?
I'm Kelsea Hebert. I live in Mangum with my boyfriend and our 3 kids.
Yes.
We have 2 16-year-olds and a 5-year-old. So
Yes. Okay.
So what do you want to know? It's a lot.
Yeah. Well, and for anybody, so we're going to start with your last name. So for anybody that is not from Louisiana, how do you spell Hebert?
Hebert.
It's spelled Hebert and pronounced Hebert. So whenever you see, like with Kelsey, she said her name was Hebert and they misspelled it. We did not. That is Louisiana French spelling for you. So, okay. So now, so I guess we'll start. So this is my intent today.
Yeah, I don't know what we're doing today, if I'm being honest.
I said, hey, come on.
I just showed up.
Yes. So you and I met, what year? When did you get your real estate license?
So I got licensed in 2017, kind of on the fly. I was an x-ray tech. I actually have a college degree to take x-rays. And I lost my job in 2017, and I had been praying for a change. So it was like the burning bush when I got laid off. Yeah. So I was going to church with some realtors, and at the time, they had encouraged me to come to career night, and your brother Avery actually taught the class.
Oh, really? Okay.
It was the week after Miss Christie had passed. I had no idea, till I joined that was the story. And so
I didn't realize you never got to meet Christie.
I did not.
Oh.
And I just always, the moment I heard her, I was like, that's what I want to be.
Yeah.
But Avery taught the class and was basically, in true Avery,
yes,
he was like, how much do you think it costs to get in this business? I said, I have no idea. I'm broke. I was drawing unemployment. And he was like, it costs this much to get you signs, this much to get class, this much for a test. It's $1,500. You make that back in one check. And I thought, okay, sign me up. And here we are. And then I got licensed at the end of August in 2017, and I went to Bold, I think October, and that's where I met you.
Okay, yeah.
2017.
Okay. And because you drove down south, where was it? Lafayette. Okay, so
Brahman and I had got sponsored to go to the class because I didn't have the funds to go, and she was on my team at Keller Williams at the time, and so she and I would carpool. We'd leave Monroe at like 5 and be sliding in on 2 wheels at 8:30. So
yeah. Okay. I actually talked about Brahman the other day because I still have her. She had given me a Garmin watch. Or loaned me, and Harrison said loan. I was like, well, technically given. I did offer to return it, but I've had it for, I don't know, since about that time. And also I had the bike, but where you can put it in the stationary thing. So she actually got me back when I decided to get back get into running. She actually, I would go running with her, and she cracked me up. There's certain things that you learn from runners that just we were, I don't remember where we were running, but it was like a main road, and she said, and I couldn't run, I needed to walk. She was like, get over there. So she made us walk on like a road that people couldn't see. Don't ever let anybody see you walk. And I was like, that's so awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you licensed, and so you kind of just jumped in.
I think I started the class the week after the 4th of July, and or mid-July. I think I went to the class, and we took a week off, and then I started the class. 4 weeks later, I took my test and passed both on the first try. Because to me, time was of the essence. My unemployment was set to end in November, so my mindset was you got to go as fast as you can. And if I didn't have any closings at that point, I was going to just go find a job.
Yeah.
So I got licensed in late August and just hit the ground running. I think I closed my first one in October of that year.
Yeah. So yeah, like sometimes it is just grab yourself and just go.
Yeah, there was no option.
Yes. I like that, burning the bridge. So now at this point, you had your daughter.
I did. I was single. I had my daughter. She was 9 at the time.
Okay.
I think. Yeah. And I had some family support. So I was living at home with my mom because the year prior, I had lost my significant other to a snake bite injury. And so it put me in a position to be on my own as far as bills and life and because we split everything. And so I'd moved back in with my mom. So losing my job shortly after, even though I had been praying for the change, it was just like boom, boom, boom. So it was, that was literally rock bottom for me. Like I had nothing to do but go up. And so I had some help, with people at home to help with her while I got kind of started in the business. I remember my mom telling me, she was like, "Are you crazy?" I said, "Why?" She's like, "You don't know when you're getting paid again?" I was like, that's the drive to work. And I quickly tripled my income the first year. And I was like, there's no question about this.
Yeah.
I'm not going back. So
Yeah. That's every time I've ever thought about like getting a real job, right? Things get, and with that said, like if you've been in sales, it's hard. If you don't close, you don't get paid. Right. So when I say it is a real job, when I say a real job, like going back in the office or working for somebody else,
a salary or
the salary role,
wage.
A lot of times, then I'll go, wait, I don't have any other skills, or because you have a college degree.
I do, and even going to that. So when I got laid off, they were just making cuts. There was a lot of changes going on in our clinic, and what I was getting paid was probably on the lower end of what Rad Techs got paid. But I also had a bankruptcy coming out of that. So when I lost my job, I also was dismissed from my bankruptcy. So everything kind of retroed. So I went into real estate. Like when we talk about being flat broke,
like you were like negative.
Right.
You had to get to zero.
Yeah. So a lot of people thought it was crazy, but I think it was my more motivating way, because now I look back and I'm like, you remember those days you lived off $900 every 2 weeks? Yeah. I don't know how we did it, but we did.
Yeah, but that makes me Ralph McCurdy, phenomenal guy and a broker. Used to be our broker, and he would always say, like, if you want to make more money, get more bills. I'm like, it's true. I prefer not to do it that way, but it works. So now you've got licensed. You quickly tripled your income, and then you had
Jude in 2018. I had been licensed a little over a year, and I got remarried. And then quickly after, I got pregnant with Jude, and I had a lot of medical complications. So I kind of took a backseat to real estate in early 2019 due to I was on bed rest, and I still sold 8 houses from the bed.
Yeah.
And a whole lot of leverage. And so 2019 came, I had Jude. I went through some deep postpartum depression. So I really didn't hit the ground running again. He was born in July. I think I kind of went back into sales in September. Quickly kind of noticing like I had to stay busy because, one, for my mental health, but two, income quickly, like, yes. I was kind of seeing that path return. So I would say in early 2020, I formed a team with somebody at my old brokerage. And that's when I learned how, leverage, conquer and divide, together. And he and I at the time like doubled our incomes from the year before by doing that. And that's where I learned I want to be on a team. I want to, because I also had to be a mom. So, I had quickly burned out right before I got pregnant, trying to do it all on my own. And so I would say between the burnout and the pregnancy, I was like, I want to take a break. And then I thought I would go get a little job, a part-time job, just to get back in the groove and have some stability, and quickly learned after the first paycheck, this was not where I was meant to be. Even though I was given a manager position, it still was a fraction of what I knew I could do. And so it was a little wake-up call, I'll say.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so, this is, you and I were talking about, how long have you been with THLT now?
I joined in March the 6th, I think.
Okay.
So not quite 6 months.
Okay.
Actually, it's a funny story. I got an alert this morning that Harrison's listing is about to expire off the market, and I joined the week he listed because that's how we started talking. I was like, why are you selling your house? And it kind of turned into like, let's go have coffee, and a week later I joined the brokerage. So that's how I can kind of remember.
That's hilarious. That's we do in real estate. We think of everything as like the contract. That week, right, was the first time we have talked in a while, and you shared some really cool things during that meeting or those calls where I found out more about your son. I've been diagnosed. You believe you're ADHD. Your son is autistic, and we got to talking about that. And one of my heart is ADHD. I don't know that I told you, and I have not been diagnosed with this, and I don't think that like people shouldn't self-diagnose, right? Like I'm not a doctor. I am finding out more though. So like I was diagnosed with ADHD in my early 20s and mid 20s, and
I've never been diagnosed because I was a straight A student, and
Me
so they
too.
believed that if you made good grades, you shouldn't have that, and I had to overcompensate my learning habits to get there.
yeah, a lot of you find that with women a lot of times that we're diagnosed with maybe other things, but but now that through not everybody that has ADHD needs medicine. I'm one of the ones that medicine helps, and through that and through the learning of and the studying of and now coaching people with ADHD, I have a bit of like control of it. And so what's funny is now I'm seeing traits that are really autistic, and a lot of people are ADHD, or they call it ADHD, right?
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I'm excited to share with you guys today, I'm having Kelsey on this podcast because we are getting ready to introduce another podcast where we are going to focus a lot on autism, ADHD, raising a child with autism, and what does that mean? What does she learn through the process? Even, and this is I've always been impressed by you. I think matter of fact, I remember the company, you went through the Bold class, and then I started working, I was with that same company, but then I took over like running the place, and you left to go to another brokerage that was starting. And I remember at the time going, dude, don't. and not because I didn't think that could be, she's going to be great wherever she goes, but like I thought a lot of you. And
Appreciate that.
yeah. And so I was like,
And I was there right at 6 years, so I was the first agent to be there when they started the company. So leaving, to me, like, I probably cried every day for 2 weeks when I left because I had emotional attachment.
Oh,
You know, and
yeah.
I still do.
Yeah.
So it was a big deal for me to pick up what I know, because I've been through a lot of things and trauma. So change, even though I enjoy change, a big change like that was very scary,
Yes.
because to me it was going to be a shift in what
Yeah.
I was doing.
Yes.
So,
Well, and so when we talked, you shared with me more about your son and going through just, all of that. But I was so impressed. And this is one of the reasons that I wanted to do the podcast with you around the ADHD and the autism is a lot of times women are not diagnosed or we don't know how to do things. And then we're both in business, so this isn't going to be just a women's only podcast. It's about everything. And there are parents out there that are business owners, they're salespeople, they're running businesses, and you're dealing with the home environment. And for you, your son, you didn't really, and this is what just blew my mind, or I just thought was really cool. There wasn't a place where you wanted your son to go to school here locally.
That's correct.
Like that could provide him everything he needed. Mm-hmm. And so you, along with some other people, made something pretty cool happen. So
yeah, and that actually, I only feel like I only went to the meeting, but they had been starting that school for almost 3 years, and I had no clue about it. So it's kind of funny. I was at my old brokerage, and one of our agents come in and tell me about it. And at the time, we didn't really know what all the school would be geared around, like what kind of needs. And I went to the first meeting, and I remember going in the meeting and hearing kind of the reason behind the school is called ACE. And I remember leaving that meeting in tears, and I called the lady that had kind of helped. It was 2 co-founders, and I had been talking to both of them, and I cried. I said, what do y'all need to do? And they said, we need parents to go to Baton Rouge to the Bessie meeting where they're going to do our official approval. Because they had been, anytime you apply for a charter school, the way I understand it, I may be wrong, but you have to apply, and if you I guess, have too many things that you didn't do right in the application on your score, then you're denied your first, I guess, application to open a charter. So what they let you do is, after you've been denied, they tell you I don't know if they're called deficiencies or what they're called, but you go back and you try to fix those. Well, when they went back to fix them, they were only down to 2. And those 2 things really couldn't be done till the school had started, because some chartered schools are already maybe private schools or they're home or whatever. So they've kind of been functioning. We were not functioning at the time as anything. And so there was a couple things we had to prove the first year. So what we had to go down there and do was tell the Bessie board why Monroe, Louisiana needed an autistic chartered school. The statistics are kind of scary high. From what I understand, 1 in 36 children are diagnosed on the spectrum. That is nationwide. Northeast Louisiana, we feel like the statistic is higher. Same with cancer. There was over 1,000 kids that said could benefit from the school, yet due to the school's current size and structure, they can only accept 96. The hope is to grow, but that's going to be grades K through 5. So they were wanting anybody that could get down to Baton Rouge to talk in front of Bessie, and they gave you 3 minutes. And so I had to write a speech and put everything down in 3 minutes. And when we got down there was 21 of us set to speak. And they were already running behind schedule. We were supposed to meet at 1, and we did not meet till 5 that evening. 21 people times 3 is 60 minutes, 63 minutes. So we were told that there was a couple board members that had not been in favor or had not 100% felt in favor, or so we thought. Well, as they got to, the founders got to talking and the members, all the members looked around and said, is anybody in opposition? And they said no. So after being down there and I didn't have to give my speech, but it was such a, it was emotional listening to them give the verdict, because prior to that, so I guess I'll back up. Jude was diagnosed at 2.5. We started ABA services, which is applied behavioral analysis therapy, where he would go to half a day. But the other half of the day, I really had no help as far as family would help with him.
Well, and because autism is such a broad spectrum.
So the co-founder of ACE says this, and I love this quote. Maddie Cannon says this: when you've met one kid with autism, you've only met one kid. They all have, their own things. And so, it's hard to trust just anybody with him, because people have to know his ways and how to communicate with him. And so he has different therapy programs, and I had family that would help. But the truth is, my brain is always, after 12, where's he going? And I'm trying to do real estate and that. So every month we meet with ABA to see how his progress is going and what we want to work towards. And I remember sitting in that room a year ago crying, going, I have no idea what school's going to look like for him. Not that I didn't trust our school system, because where I'm zoned for is a great school. I know a lot of the teachers. But they even told me, they said, we're just not equipped to 100. We will do the best we can,
That's
but
right.
We're not equipped 100% for his needs. And if there's a school opening for it, I would by all means try to apply. And it was like a month later, I found the news about ACE. And I was just like, Lord God, you heard it. And, then we got approved in October, and they started the application process, and he was accepted in January. So I knew, at that point that he was, his education would look different than my daughter's, but it was where I feel like he needed to be. And so from there, we actually just started first week of August.
Yeah.
And it has been great. And so, he gets what he needs during the day. I do my work, and then at 3 I pick him up, and some days he has therapy or we go do our thing. So, I think it's benefited everybody for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And first off, the people that were already, because obviously there was a need here for that school. And
there's only 12 chartered schools specific for autism in the nation. Now, people were like, that's a scary, there's only 12. There are other schools that are geared for all special needs, or they're private. Because when I say I was not a part of the founding process. I just kind of was there when they got, approved. But the co-founders kind of traveled the nation and spoke to a lot of people trying to get an idea of how to start this thing. And there was some up north that were private, but the tuition was so high. The tuition was almost what some people's salary was.
Yeah.
And they were like, for our area, we have to find something that's tuition free. And so there's only 12 specific chartered schools for autistic children in the nation. There are some private ones, and there are some, full circle, I guess, all needs. But that was even more scary, knowing the statistic of 1 in 36 kids are diagnosed, yet we only have 12 tuition-free schools just for these kids.
Yeah, in all of U.S. And it is, because like you said, there's autistic is such a spectrum, because I know with your son.
He's level 3, so he's considered the severe side.
Okay.
So you have level 1, which is going to be more of your Asperger's and the social. I don't really know how they categorize. I know we saw several doctors, and then we had several tests, and then they have questionnaires that I fill out based off some of his stems and such as that. He's considered the
STEM.
Yes.
So I don't know that everybody understands when you say STEM.
So for Jude, I should Google this definition because I'm probably going to butcher this. But for Jude, it is behaviors that he does repetitively when he's either overstimulated or just, he doesn't speak. So he makes noises, but when he hand flaps, that's his stem. So he does this, and sometimes he just does it walking around, and we'll watch him walk. And I think he's little, you know how you have just driving down the road thinking about 100 things you need to do? I think that's what he's doing. Mm-hmm. So instead of being able to talk, he has to arm flap. Some people, I think, have random bursts of shouting. He flaps. Some people pinch. Some people twiddle their fingers, and so his is considered severe because of some of his other behaviors. One, he's nonverbal. Some of the other delays he had made him more on the severe side. I think to be more like stage 1's going to be more of a socially withdrawn, or like some of this level 1 kids, you almost don't see it because academically they're straight A students. But then when you get into some of their behavioral styles, that's where you see it. So you may not know it talking to him until you've been around him a few days. But with Jude's, his become very evident. So I would say it was kind of weird. When he was about a little over a year old, I started seeing the arm flapping thing and the delayed not speaking. But COVID also hit right around his first birthday, or right before. And so, everybody blamed that because we weren't getting out. We weren't getting our social interaction. Well, my mom and dad both kept him, and my mom just could tell something was different. And I could too, but our doctor was like, well, they don't really like diagnosing or investigating till they're 2. So we started approaching the second birthday, and we were still getting limited speech. It was actually becoming withdrawn. We were getting tiptoe walking. We were getting a lot of symptoms. And so I remember my mom telling me, do what you have to do to get the best care for him. And unfortunately, that meant leaving Monroe and going to Little Rock to get our diagnosis. Not that I was seeking a diagnosis, but insurance does not like paying for things if you do not have a diagnosis of some sort. And all we had was a delay.
Yeah.
And so I was a little floored that even certain psychologists would not see him until he was almost 4 to get their side, because you have neurology that's going to diagnose psychology. And I know they don't have rules, and kids mature later. So I was mind blown because they were like, well, you could still get him early help, but therapy couldn't accept him without some form of a diagnosis. So when we went to Arkansas Children's, I was, one, educated a good bit on how this works, but 2, some of his delays in the beginning, to me, I thought was just because he was born early, and being a boy, they just do things later than girls, they say. So, like, his walking happened right around, I think, 14 months. Well, that's right close to that milestone marker, so he was not considered delayed. His speech kind of started around 8 to 9 months babbling. So, again, right at the edge, but we're not delayed. But crawling even didn't happen till like 10 months. And so they could not find a delay with him. So it didn't get till about a year and a half that we started, quote unquote, doing delayed, according to, I guess, the timelines that they go by. And so it took a while, and that's almost with any big diagnosis like that. It's not an overnight deal. You have to go through a lot of therapy to see what he can improve on, and he does improve. There's a lot that he could not do in the beginning that he can do now. He uses an AAC tablet device to communicate, so he can tap if he's hungry. He's this is what I want. And so
it kind of speaks for him.
It does. And he knows, because, like, you can hide some of the buttons, and when it's raining, I have to hide the outside button. He'll just, if I don't, he'll click it, and it'll go outside, and he'll just look at you like, I know you hear me.
Yes.
And so he, there's still some communication barriers, but since he started school, let me back up. Not even since he started school, his ABA, he knows up to 25 out of 26 letters, 11 colors, and 8 shapes. Did not know that, because at home, he's doing his thing.
Yeah.
But at school, they've showed me different things he can do, even though he can't speak. They have figured out a way to see how he knows it. And, it's amazing what the technology and the therapy programs that we have now that they didn't have years ago. I'm just very thankful for our team, because it literally is the team that does it. So,
yeah.
Well,
that's with autism or, ADHD, and they are different, but it's,
some of the same. We were told that he could go into the ADHD because those symptoms do mimic a lot. So what we're going to have to watch for is if he struggles even when he's in his element. Like right now, I know I keep getting a note sent home like he does not sit very well, which is it's common. It's not like he's in trouble, because the school is meant for them to be their self. But they can put a timer and he'll sit and do his task. But when it's time to eat, he doesn't sit because he wants to visit and look what everybody's food is, you know, so stuff like that we have to work on, you know, that might be some ADHD, like he's done, so he doesn't need to sit anymore. So, but but some of his and two diagnosis was we had a lot of traumatic things happen in 2021 when we got his diagnosis, I think officially in 2022, but 2021 we actually got the appointment and it took us 8 months to get into the doctor because they're so backed up, and that's unfortunate too because it's a lot of specialties. But they wondered if some of our trauma that happened to us, it definitely didn't cause it, but if there was so much going on that we weren't 100% sure if some of the trauma also
delayed or
caused some things to happen, like a lot of changes, which he was, like I said, it definitely didn't cause it. He was born this way. We did genetic testing. He was born this way. But the same year we're seeing delays, we also had both of my parents pass that were some of his caretakers during the day. And so, you know, when you have boom, boom, boom hit in 2021, like I say, that was my year of just, like the year after was recovering. Yeah. You know, picking up pieces. And so, yeah,
it's hard. It's hard. And that's actually, and this, the other day I had a good guy, well-intentioned, and he said something like, well, you know, ADHD, you know, it's not even real or something. And we were not in a place where you
could argue the fact.
Yes. And I think sometimes with ADHD, autism, unless it is like the level whatever and people can like see it, we tend to say, oh, you know, that it's not really, or isn't. And I'm like, it is now, not everybody, you know, because some people are like, you know, it's hard for me to sit down too. Well, that's not really what autism is. Or not what ADHD is. It can play a part in it, but that's not it, right? It's the way your brain functions. And it's like you said, it's genetic. It's how how you were born. But when people say, are they like, oh, they're overdiagnosing it? And again, do people sometimes get diagnosed and they shouldn't with ADHD or sure. Okay. And yet let's err on the side of, because, I think of it a lot like, because people, now that we know, I like Maya Angelou's quote, you know better, you do better. And I love, you take glasses. I wear contacts. I could not tell what this is without my contacts.
I'm not that bad.
I'm super bad. And, I imagine that when glasses first came about, somebody somewhere went, well, I mean, all these people have glasses. They probably don't even need them, because it was like, well, last year or 2 years ago, 10 years ago, nobody had glasses. Well, it's because they didn't know that you needed them. It didn't just happen. Yeah. Or you think about, nowadays, Harrison's left-handed. Yeah. Well, for a long time, you didn't see left-handed people.
They trained you to be right-handed.
Like, they would tie your hand behind, like they would, and I
learned about that in college, like side note, about being right or left brain dominant or weak. And I found out I was right weak because I can actually do a lot with my left hand. Like, I was borderline ambidextrous.
Yes.
Which apparently is also an autistic trait. I didn't know that.
Well, so
and my son is. So.
Yes. And then my favorite. So I've got some people in my family. So most of us are ADHD. We get it from our mama. If you spend 5 minutes with my mom, she's ADHD. And
maybe that's why I didn't think I had it growing up, because my dad was the same way, because he talked all the time.
Yes.
And he changed the subject all the time, but he could do his task, like, because we did a lot of livestock raising and farming, and he could get that completed. But he talked a lot, so I just assumed that was why I was raised.
Well,
and now I'm like, that's not, like, some of those features are not cool.
Well, that's where in our family, like, I've had this conversation, because the trait of ADHD, autistic, again, there's levels to all of this, but we tend to hyperfixate on things. So for the last few years, I've been really learning about, ADHD and diving in, and how do I coach to it, and how do I do this? I'm actually doing a whole new course that I'm going through in September for these things. And yet, so because I'm hyperfixated, that's all I talk about.
Yeah.
Well,
but it's good because, like, you've taken me, and I feel like I've always been a little ADHD, and I can semi-compensate for, learned behavior. That's what they teach in ABA.
Yes.
But you will take things like when I'm just all over the place, and you're like, okay, what all do you have to do one thing at a time? And I'm like, she made that so easy. And I just, had some, and sometimes I wonder if it's just my life, like my lifestyle. Like, it's normal to me. I know Harrison and I have talked, and he's like, I don't see how you do it. I was like, me neither, dude. But I do. Like, if I didn't have it to do, I'd probably lose my mind because I'm busy all the time.
Yeah.
So, I'm like him. I'm just as bad, like, twiddling with the phone, playing a game. If I'm sitting still, I can't sit still.
That's right. Well, and so, and the interesting thing is so like you said, your dad is. So in my family, because that's all, like, again, I get hyper focused on things and I'm talking about it. And at one point when my brother said, Olivia, like, everybody's like that. And I said, interesting enough, you feel like everybody's like that. And I feel like everybody's, because it runs in families. So guess what?
Yeah.
Everybody we're around do these things. I said, but go hang out with, I think of Charles from Partners Title.
Oh.
Go hang out with Charles's family.
I love Charles.
They are, and again, normal is just a setting on a washing machine. That's all it is.
It's everybody's normal's different from mine.
I said, but again, a lot of times people will think, well, I don't have that, or I'm not that, or I shouldn't see a doctor about it. And that's one of the reasons I'm a big believer of talk to the doctor. If medicine, but I'm not a big fan of just medicine.
Yeah, no.
Because like you mentioned with me being able to help you do that. Well, that's because I've been trained on it, or I've learned about it, or I've all these things, because it's not, and I've got a family member that he takes the medicine, but he won't learn the things. So I feel like it's only a portion. It's almost like with glasses, right? He needs to be at a prescription of a 5 and he's at a 3, right? So I do think the learning thing, because it is a behavioral thing, and you can learn things that I'm not a big fan of like turn it into a superpower. It can be when you learn about it and you learn how to work with it. I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
I
think it's, for me, growing up, small town, unless they thought you had something learning disability wise, it was just expected that you brought home on or all straight A's. So I did. I was number 3 in my graduating class, yet I struggle. Like, I would spend 4 and 5 hours a night studying. One of my good friends graduated like number 5 or 6, right in behind me. And he would study like 1 or 2 hours. He's now a pharmacist, So I look back and think, maybe I struggled with it all then, but I learned the skill to overcompensate. But even like my dad, I never saw him as ADHD because he wasn't hyper. He was just busy. But as he got older, some of his mental health struggles, which we kind of have learned some of what probably caused it later, but a lot of it was because he was used to staying so busy and either always talking to somebody, always on the farm. So when he retired from farming, he went and worked at Curry Farms, the pumpkin patch.
Yeah.
He welded, and he was always doing something. And the older he got, he began to, I believe, suffer. He started watching Jude for me just to have something to do. Because he loved to sit and watch TV, but he was always on the phone or always rocking. And I told him, I said, rocking, is going to hurt it's going to make you I've always heard you can develop Alzheimer's early from it. I don't know if that's true, but I was like, you stay busy moving. And then right before he died, I kind of think that's why he struggled with some of his mental health, was because he, in his mind, always had to be working or doing something, contributing to life. And that kind of, to me, fell back on ADHD a little bit because he always felt the need to be busy.
Well, and yes, and this is the interesting thing, especially with people that go undiagnosed, because I do love what you said earlier. Like we're not seeking a diagnosis. I look at the diagnosis from a perspective of, if I know, then I can do something about it. I know it's almost like Baptist, Pentecostal. I don't care which one you are, but if you're diagnosed or you go to a Baptist church, I know some of the things, your core beliefs.
Yeah.
If you say you're Pentecostal, I know some of your core beliefs. Doesn't mean I know everything about you, but I know, well, so if so by me being diagnosed ADHD, what that freed me up from is some of the stigmas. For instance, so like you mentioned, always moving. And a lot of times this is with girls. I can, especially if I'm hyper focused on something, I can work on a project that I'm interested in so long that my legs go to sleep. I realize I haven't peed in 2 days or whatever.
Yeah.
I haven't drank. I haven't ate. I haven't, right?
like, I'm not one of these that has to pace on the phone. They kill me when we have listing meetings. They're up down the staircase, down the road. I'm just sitting in the chair on the phone because I'm like, I can get hyper fixated, but I'm not able to focus on anything else if it's brought to me because I'm zoned in.
Yes. And that's like I would when I played sports, I didn't really understand when, you know how people talk to the batter and everybody's like, don't talk. Okay. Once I batted and I zoned in, I literally couldn't hear.
Yeah.
I like legit did not hear those things now. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But if you're my
if
coach,
you're ADD, you will hear it. Like,
well,
you do hear everything.
Yeah. Well, and so that's what it's funny because it'll be but usually if I hear everything, there's something that I didn't know about then, but it's called rejection sensitivity disorder. It is not a it's not something like medicine for or whatever, but basically rejection sensitivity disorder, and a lot of people with ADHD have this. Everybody worries about, like, does somebody like me, or is something going to happen? Or that happened, and now how did I show up that way? Well, with rejection sensitivity disorder is you like you fixate on it in your mind that somebody, like, let's say somebody doesn't like you, or so you're worried about something that's never going to come to pass or never. And so that's with like ADHD. What happens is, and I see this a lot with women that I coach. That
Let's say you're kind of speaking to me, Olivia. Don't tell me I've got something else.
well, and I do see this a lot with women that were undiagnosed. So they the reason why they can't, let me back, not the reason, but part of, like, can't sit still is because there's, people that are ADHD tend to think, and it's weird because a lot of them move so much, right? But because they don't fit the mold or somebody else thinks, they tend to, people at some point has called them lazy or you're a slob, clean this room.
So the 100 people that told them they were awesome, that got washed out by the one person that told them they were the opposite.
Yes.
And I know what you're saying. Like, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, and when you take people with ADHD,
like ADHD would staying busy, they always feel the need to be doing something to, I guess, impress somebody or make somebody happy.
Well, and the way that our brain works is because part of it is a lot of times people think, oh, well, you're bouncing a lot, but think about our brain is bouncing a lot. So I heard this the other day and I went, oh gosh, that's the perfect way to say it. So if somebody with ADHD, you always think that you should be doing something else until you do that thing. And then you think you should be doing something else. So you're always, you'll have, like, that's, leftover projects because, like, let's say that I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to wash dishes. So you start washing dishes but then your brain goes, yeah, but you were supposed to be washing clothes.
I do
so
that.
as soon as you go to wash clothes, your brain's going, but you should do this. And
my boyfriend said that's how I clean house, and he watch, like, because he's always hands-on helpful. Him and my daughter, especially since I've taken on the new role, have done everything amazing at home. But one Saturday, he was watching me. He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, cleaning. He's like, you were in the bathroom, and you're not finished, and you done went to the kitchen. I said, that's my ADHD. It'll all get done by the end of the day. Just let me be.
Yes. So
it drives me nuts.
Yeah. Well, so one of the, because like, I'll do the same. Like, you'll be cleaning in the kitchen, and then you'll have a thought, like, you see something and you're like, oh, that doesn't belong here.
To do it.
I'm going to go take that here. And then you're over there. Yeah. So the other piece is we tend to, the way we look. Well, anyway, so before I go into all of that.
Thank God her ADHD in overdrive.
That's right. But we do work really well on list.
Oh,
so that's now to keep us if you're ADHD and you hit overwhelm. What happens, and this is everybody.
I live by a to-do list.
Yes, because the interesting thing is Pat Mancuso shared this with me a long, long time ago. He's another amazing coach. And so whenever our brain, when we feel overwhelmed or we say, I'm overwhelmed because we felt it, right? Well, really what that is the part of your brain that figures out how to do things, so the creative part of your brain, it actually shuts down. It's almost like fight or flight. So the creative part of your brain shuts down. So that's why, like, if you ever, and like you mentioned that sometimes you're all over this, you'll talk to me and I'm able to help you just do this. Well, it's because your creative side of your brain just shut down. So if you want a tip on how to get your creative side of your brain that figures out how to do things back in order, it is to go take it out of your brain and write it down. Let me write down everything that comes to me. Then your creative part of your brain turns back on and you can do it.
And then if you're like me, I got the little fancy notebook. So now my notebook can be sectioned, listings, buyers, stuff at home I need to finish.
Yes.
It's got multiple books within the book.
Yes. But it's such a, to me, it's an interesting topic because we do have people that have it, and because there are people out there that say, oh, that doesn't exist, or everybody has that. It's because they only see the outside piece of it. And I also think too, because when people hear somebody say, oh, well, I have ADHD, what they're thinking that you're saying is, so I'm this way and you have to just deal with it. Mm-hmm. You have to ignore the fact that, this, that, or the other, or that I'm going to be late. I'm not. People with ADHD have something called time blindness. And it's funny because there's typically two camps. You either get there like an hour early or you get there an hour late because time doesn't mean the same thing. Now, so it is inherently on the person that's ADHD to discover and create a system around that. So I'm not one of those who are like, oh, I'm ADHD, you just have to deal with it. And because I know that I have that, it helps me go, okay, well then I have to have a system that I can implement, or I can do X, Y, Z to ensure that I'm where I'm supposed to be at when I'm supposed to be at. And so it's not an excuse. It is a way for me to identify that may be a challenge.
Interesting. So I'm supposed to go in left field on you because I've been wanting to ask you this forever. I know we learned this in Bold about using and instead of but. Mm-hmm. Why I just picked it up because you corrected yourself. I never understood it.
Okay.
Explain it.
Okay. So
I understand it in some cases, but then sometimes it's used, it doesn't make sense to me.
Okay. So this is a lot of times, so what she's referring to is...
I know that was real left field. That ADHD just kicked in overdrive, and I picked up on that, and that's where I'm at.
It's a great question. So the power of words and how we utilize words are super important. And the course that she went through that I taught, we talk about...
positive affirmations.
We also talk about limiting words and, again, the power of our words. So in there, we learned, or we taught, that you don't say but. And interesting enough, since then, I'll tell you the both sides. So part of the reason we don't say but is if I said, love that shirt, but what do you think's coming next?
A negative comment.
A negative.
Like that I understand again, that sense.
But
it takes the blunt off of it.
Yeah, like all of a sudden, so either one of two things, either end your sentence right there or use and as a bridge, and that would probably look really good in orange too. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
So that's part of it.
That I understand. But the other, I've heard it and I'm like, but wouldn't hurt there.
Yes. So but negates anything at the beginning. Mm-hmm. So it's actually, once you get really good at it, you will use but again, only intentionally.
Okay.
So if I want to negate the beginning, for instance, and this is off the cuff, so it may end up sounding bad, but I understand how you feel, but you're way more powerful.
So you're actually trying to bring them more positive out of a negative thought process. That makes sense.
So that's and a lot of times too, but just becomes a safe space filler. So
it does.
I'm challenged right now with, not just now, but I've worked on it, and then it is a space filler for me.
It is.
And interesting enough, part of that is ADHD because my brain may be over here and I need to come back over here. So it's kind of, so I just,
your brain's at 100, but your mouth needs to be about a 30 mile per hour.
Yes. And so that's part of it. But so that's the power of words. It's just that and instead of but. Yeah.
Okay. I had the idea for the most part. I just didn't know if there was something I was missing.
No. And a lot of times it's just really just end a sentence.
Yeah.
And that's, And because I've been doing it so long, it's funny because
It's your
since
vocabulary.
2009.
Like, I've heard you say something, like somebody say something, you'll go, everybody else would have been but.
Yeah.
And I'm like, she has integrated that in her vocabulary.
Well, and I leather, like, it's funny, like, I'll type up something but, like, actually would sound better there. And I have to put a period and start a new sentence. Like, it now, like, it has become such a habit. Like, I can't use that word without feeling like you'd think I was cussing or something.
So my English teacher in high school, he taught on a college level because I was like in honors class. And he would read my work and swear that I cheated because he said that I had great grammar writing and I knew where every punctuation went and how to correctly write, but I didn't speak it. And I had to give the graduation speech in high school. And I remember him telling me, Dolly, I need you to slow down and speak correctly. And I had to write the speech, because I had to read. And he said, I always swore you cheated because you have great writing skills. You just don't speak them very well.
Yes. Absolutely. Well, and I blame some of that on, I read at a really early age. Mm-hmm. Like at one point, I always laugh, they had me take the gifted. Uh-huh. I'm not gifted. Like they didn't.
See, I did get in the gifted intelligence program.
No. So but I was really good at English and reading, mm-hmm. and math and science not as much, and mainly because with math, right? If you miss a step, it messes everything
mm-hmm.
up, and
I'm the opposite. I'm math with math's my jam.
Yeah, so. So not gifted, and yet that was kind of the same because I read at an early age, mm-hmm. and that's like again why people would not have thought that I was ADHD growing up, because we typically think of it as boys not being able to sit still, and then schools say like, oh, you have to take this medicine to sit still. I don't agree with that.
Yeah, because some people can sit still, but their mind cannot focus. That's the way I was. Like I could sit still, but I could not. My ACT reading score was a 17. My math was a 30. If that tells you anything, like I couldn't focus to read.
Yeah. So and mine is I actually had a 24 overall because
that was mine too because I had to go in the middle of all that.
Yes. So like you were a 30. I was a 28 in English and reading, mm-hmm. and like whatever the other number is, the lower number to average me to a 24 because of science and math. And that's funny. See, together, this is going to be a great podcast. Together, we become one.
Yeah. That's when I knew cause I always struggled in reading English, and I just thought I got bored. And then it wasn't until college that I realized that was a true learning disorder. I just knew if I kept rereading, I would memorize it. Huh. So I may not fully understand it. So even with real estate, like I memorized it and passed the test with flying colors, but I truly didn't have an understanding. I just memorized the words. Yeah. So I actually have to do anything to understand what I'm doing. And it doesn't take long for me to catch on, luckily, because, I said, reading, I would not comprehend. So
I didn't realize this until probably I really started deep diving into the ADHD and everything and I went, oh, that makes so much sense. Because if you would have asked me if I was a good reader, I said, heck yeah. I was probably the only kid in school. I had anxiety about reading out loud because I was afraid that
I stumble over my words reading.
Well,
very bad.
Yeah, I'm amazing at it. Listen to me. I don't mean it but I enjoy it. Okay.
Yeah.
But where the anxiety came at for me, and this is part of ADHD, and the anxiety of it is, I was so afraid I was going to be judged because my brain is over here and I wouldn't know, they were going to get to my paragraph and I wasn't going to know that's where I needed to start reading. That's what I do. And then I was going to feel bad or whatever. But I have most books I've read, that I like, mm-hmm. I will read. I mean, I'm talking, there's some Louis L'Amour books that I started reading in the 3rd grade, and I have legit read them over 20 times. And it didn't dawn on me until, again, I got into this, and I went, oh my gosh, that's why. The reason I can read them 20 times is because it's like a new story every time.
She picked up on more parts.
Yes.
That's me. With reading comprehension, I would read the questions, read the story twice. Well, ACT's time, so you have to. But Olivia has asked us to read. I joined the team, and I'm like, oh, I don't read.
Which when I tell everybody, I'm like, look, when I say read, whether you're reading the book or listening,
listen.
or and a lot of times I will listen. One of the reasons I like running, and I don't know, is because I would listen to the book, and if I liked it enough, then I would buy the book, and then I would listen and highlight.
No, I do more like driving. Like we're going to Dallas. It's going to depend on who.
Oh, y'all are going to have so much fun. You're not going to listen to anything.
You have no idea how stoked I am because I've never been to this. Number one, but number two, I just love taking road trips. But I don't know. I know who's riding with me. I don't know what they want to listen to, but I have a 45-minute drive to work every day, or at least to the office. I shouldn't say work because some days that turns into 5 hours of driving. Yeah. But I can listen to anything that she's asked us to read because I don't have time to read, but I can listen and comprehend a lot better. And I can always one book, the guy was so monotone that I would have to after 10 minutes rewind it and re-listen, but at least I could get a better feel of what he was trying to say.
Yeah. So. Well, and I also, I listen to everybody in fast forward. So
they talk faster?
Yes.
Oh, that guy, I don't know.
Oh yeah. So
that guy was monotone.
If you on Audible, if you have one speed, I listen to at 1.8 or 2 point something because everybody speeds up really talk. They talk like this, and that's the only way that my brain can hear it. Because if you talk slow, I'm out.
No, because Harrison will get real excited about something and talk fast, and I'll lose him real quick. Yeah. I'm like, stop, rewind. Yeah. Why's that light blinking?
Oh, it's probably telling us it is time, and it's hey, it's 11:57.
Oh, I a couple minutes. I just got this watch, so I'm still trying to figure out how it all works.
Yes. Okay, so again, we are going to start releasing some podcasts around ADHD and autism. We're going to talk about it from a person,
our perspective. I'm no doctor.
Yeah, 100% same. I'm going to come at it from my perspective as a woman that was late diagnosed. She's going to come at it from the perspective of somebody that's not necessarily diagnosed, but has a kid that has autism. Mm-hmm. And so, a mom that's dealing with, I've got work, I've got kids, I've got a significant other, what does that look like? And, mm-hmm. What have you learned? And
because I'm not so sure that my daughter does not have a little bit of ADD. She's not hyper. She's very quiet, very chill. But she struggled in school, and she was not an overachiever like I was. And I always told her that's okay, find your passion. But she started virtual school and her grades went up because she was able to reread, retest on her own time. Mm-hmm. And there's some things she still I'll ask her, different questions. She may not have comprehended it. She just read enough to remember, I guess, to answer the question. I know that's not great, but she doesn't want to be a math whiz. And, she's got to learn basic math, of course. But whatever she wants to do when she's older, I'm like, you just need to focus on those things to, get through school. But
absolutely.
I've always, I just always thought she was not an overachiever and an average kid. But now, watching her around my house, I'm like, I'm not so sure she's not a little bit on the ADD side. Like I said, she's not hyper, so we don't, for the longest, people saw it when you were busy. Like you said, couldn't sit down. She'll sit down all day, but just couldn't stay focused.
It's really more of a focus thing. And even as you said, that's you have, the diagnosis now is ADHD. Mm-hmm. They used to have ADD and ADHD. Mm-hmm. Well, because they thought of the hyper is what you exhibited, but it could be the hyperness in your mind. So now it's just ADHD. There's not a ADD and ADHD.
Yeah. She doesn't sleep well, and they said her brain cannot slow down, which my niece was truly diagnosed, and that was what the doctor told us. They cannot focus because they can't. They can't sleep because their brain does not settle down long enough to go to sleep. Yeah,
so that's we're going to do some deep diving into what it is and what are the myths and how what we've learned that may help others, and then also coming at it, like I said, from a single person, from she's in a relationship, and how we're going to talk about how ADHD shows up in relationships, and how dealing with your son with his autism and him, and then the world, and there's so many things. So we're going to talk about this, and then also from two women that are in business. Mm-hmm. And so again, this is not just a women's only podcast, because if you're a guy and you have ADHD, or you have a family member with autism, or maybe you have autism and just a different level of that, I just want to make sure that people understand what it is, so that there is power in knowing what it is, so that, because again, there will be times where I thought I was weird or I was this for this, and then you find out, oh, no, I'm not the only one that has that, and so you don't feel alone. And there's a powerfulness of not being alone.
Yeah.
And I think that's gonna knowing those pieces. I think, like you mentioned, your dad. Like, how do we take this mental thing that used to be in and thankfully it's not, but it used to be in, like, you don't talk about it.
Yeah.
And like bring it out and say, hey, look, some days we feel like this, some days we feel like that.
Normalize it.
Yeah, normalize it. So I'm super excited about starting that. And as we release, we'll let you know where you can find those pieces. And I also wanted to, as we wrap up, so we actually talked about you one day on the podcast, and how like it
I
really.
listened to a couple of them that I was talked about.
So now you guys see who we've talked about. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right. Well, this is episode 19. Episode 20 is going to be the. We're going to do a compilation of our guests and things like that, because 20th is like our first benchmark that we want to hit.
Okay.
If you are watching this and you're getting anything out of it, or you just like us enough, please subscribe. There's no cost. It does help us with the algorithm and with the channel, so we really appreciate subscribe and give us a thumbs up.
Yeah.
And now, the big piece. Can we do the high five?
It's a question, because I can do it both ways. Is it dominant hand, or because I see it's a debacle every.
Yes, it has been a debacle. So to me, it would be like this, but sometimes I think he does this
because he's left-handed.
Well, yeah, but we're usually on the other side, and I think that's the problem, because I'm trying to do it with my right. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Okay. So which one? This one we got to say let's go. Which one are you doing?
Do left hand since it's because I'm not turned.
Okay. All right.
Let's
go.